Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Score. I'm going to be going over day 8, and Houston, we no longer have a problem. Today we are covering the Houston Astros. Finally, I'm sure after the first 2 days in this division, everybody was asking themselves, where are the Astros? Well, unfortunately, with my predictions this year, the Astros are actually going to be becoming in third place in the division. That's right, they'll be behind Oakland and the LA Angels. So, anyways, let's get started. The roster positions for the Astros: catcher, they're going to be Martin Maldonado, and he's going to be backed up by Jason Castro. First base, we have Yuli Gurriel. He is Lourdes Gurriel Jr.'s brother. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. plays for my favorite, the Blue Jays. Second is, of course, Jose Altuve. Third base, we have Alex Bregman. Shortstop, Carlos Correa. Left field will be Michael Brantley. Center field will be Miles Straw. And right field will be Kyle Tucker. Utility players for this team will be Steven Souza Jr., Abraham Toro, Aledmus Diaz, and Kyle Tucker. As you notice, Tucker was a utility player, but also on the roster. This is because this team has a lot of versatility when it comes to moving players around on the field. And Kyle Tucker appears to be one of those guys that may be the odd man out in certain situations. So that's why I put him as a utility, but also in right field as well. So the pitchers, we're going to have, of course, Justin Verlander. Then we have Zach Greinke. Then we have Valdez, Javier, and McCullers Jr. Oh, but wait, we have an addition. There yesterday, it was announced on different sites, MLB.com and Sportsnet, that Odorizzi will be joining the Astros on a 2-year deal with a player option for 2023. I do believe that was a player option for 2023. So 2 years, possibly into a 3-year deal there. From what I could see so far, there was no indication of what the amount was. The team hadn't announced it yet. So per anonymous sources, that Odorizzi had agreed to a contract there of 2 years with the option for a third. DH on the team will be the power hitting Yordan Alvarez. So looking at the lineup and how that's going to shape out, I have Altuve batting first. He's a guy that can get on base, has some speed there, so he'll be at the top of the lineup. Next, I have Carlos Correa. He also is somebody that does well with getting on base and plays well there at shortstop. Alex Bregman will be next. He's a power hitter, so he'll definitely play well at getting some runs with Altuve and Correa, bringing them in at the top of the lineup. Alvarez, who is a major force in power hitting and rookies for last season. So I expect to see another big performance out of him. So I slotted him in at the fourth spot. This next one is interesting. Like I said, they've got some versatility in the lineup. People could be moved around. I slated Michael Brantley in at fifth, but with his numbers, he definitely is somebody that's a candidate for the top spot as well. Gurriel in sixth, Tucker in seventh, the catcher Maldonado, have him in eighth, and Straw batting ninth. As we head over to the pitching rotation, I have a six-man pitching rotation for right now. Valdez is a question mark right now. Apparently, he hurt his finger on a bouncing ball back to the catcher. His finger, I guess, got caught up in there. So, and it was said by the manager there that there might be a possible fracture. That was coming off of a video on MLB.com. So, yeah, he'll definitely be a question mark there. So I'm going to go with a six-man rotation. Right now, I'd have Verlander number one, of course. He is the big ace for that team. I have Odorizzi, who is shone brightly in Minnesota. He had a great season and getting paid for that, so I slide him in at number two. Zach Greinke I have at number three. After number two, this rotation could almost be made up anyway. Greinke has had flashes in the past of brilliance pitching off the mound, but he's also been a person that's had his struggles during the season. So I slot him in the middle of the lineup. I had Valdez at four, but as I said, with the fractured finger, not going to know what's happening there yet. There's no timeline. They're actually looking at x-rays and stuff, figuring that out. So McCullers Jr. in fifth, and rounding out with Javier in the sixth spot. So let's look at other storylines when it comes to Houston. How will Verlander do with a full season? This guy is a top caliber pitcher in the league. Any team would be happy to have him. Unfortunately, though, he is getting older, and as we all know, Father Time does catch up to people eventually. With a short season last year, not sure how he's going to fare on a long season, but if anybody can do it, it would be Verlander. But be watching later on the day I do the Detroit Tigers, as I have a little bit of a secret thing I'm doing during that podcast. So make sure you tune in and watch that one as well. Spotlight on Altuve and Bregman again. Of course, every year when people are talking about baseball, it always comes up with the trash can scandal. They definitely had points of struggling last year, but they still had points of brilliance as well. But after that kind of a scandal, at least for the next couple of years or whatever, it'll definitely be a thing that holds over their head. I do believe that's one of the big reasons why Springer decided he wanted to go to another team, the Blue Jays. And so, yeah, Correa has also talked about possibly leaving there. He actually was happy to see Michael Brantley get back. That was a big thing with Michael Brantley. Screw up there, not only Toronto sports media, but sports media in different areas on different channels, broadcasting the story that Michael Brantley had followed George Springer to the Blue Jays, only to have it a little while later announced that he actually had re-signed with the Houston Astros. Um, Not quite sure the full extent of what happened there, but yeah, Michael Brantley does return to the Astros. Like I said, Correa, will he stay or will he go? I do think that when the time comes, he will move on. He's expressed he wants to move on. Like I said, it's got more to do with the scandal, I think, than anything else. These people are wanting to prove themselves somewhere else so they can play, and that was just a part that happened in that season, but they still know how to play at a high caliber level. Like I said, Brantley could be used as a versatility player, move around different spots in the lineup, move them up and down depending on where you need help. So that's a good thing there. Now to the last part of the segment, always the players to watch. I have Forrest Whitley, who's a right-handed pitcher, number one prospect for the organization. Like I said, that back half of that rotation, you don't know what you're going to get. There's going to be injuries as well all over the place, so definitely watch for Forrest Whitley to see what happens there. Whether he moves up into starter or starts in the bullpen, or there's also the chance he starts at AAA to get stretched out and possibly move in there later in the season. Frutus Nova, he's an infielder, number 2 prospect on the organization. Horian Abreu, again a right-handed pitcher, number 3. Then you have Jeremy Pena. He's a shortstop slash second baseman, number 4 in the organization. He definitely would be a guy to watch. I'm sure will start out in the minors to start the season, but he's definitely a guy to watch, especially with the Correa situation. If he doesn't decide to go and they decide to move Correa even at the trade deadline or whatever, if it has it, then Jeremy Pena could be maybe a possible person to move up in that spot. Hunter Brown, the right-handed pitcher again, number 6. I doubt he'll make the rotation, but you'll never know. Like I say, with injuries and not knowing what's happening there, he definitely could get a look later in the season, that's for sure. And now the question everybody has in their mind. You put the Astros number 3, and now they signed Jake Odorizzi. Does that change your projection for this division this season? Well, I actually had this pre-taped before Odorizzi changed the team, and that's why they were in 3rd. And I have to say, amongst the fans out there and the people disagreeing with me, I have to say this does not change it in any way. I see this team as one where people are wanting to move on. The window is closing here due to the scandal. I think there's definitely going to be some other players that want to play elsewhere. Like I said, secret thing coming in the Tigers podcast, so make sure you tune into that one as well. But yeah, I definitely see this team as being one that's going to slowly see new faces and people wanting to prove themselves elsewhere. It's unfortunate. They did have a great team with lots of talent, but I think that scandal will be proving too much for this team. Like they went and added Brantley again, and they brought in. There's a couple of other new guys coming in there, but uh, I definitely see this team. Even though signing Odorizzi, I just don't think the back end of that pitching rotation and the people on that team, I just can't see them contending at the top anymore. There was 7 or 8 teams that finished ahead of them for the playoffs last year for the record. Um, they managed to squeak in there. Going back to a regular playoff, they're going to have to be way better than that, and I'm not sure just adding Odorizzi is going to put them over that hump. I definitely think the Angels are going to have more fight wanting to get Trout back to the playoffs. Oakland is going to want to prove themselves again, and I don't see the Astros having that enough and having that energy to get back there. It's definitely a team that could definitely during the season could change things later on, but looking at it right now, I know they've got the talent and whatever, but there's something about this team that definitely gives me some doubts. So anyways, that is it for the Houston Astros. Give out a big shout out to my friend Lindsay Lee on Facebook. She is a big fan of Verlander. Keeps talking about that he's her husband. So when I did this one, and she's also a Tigers fan, so she'll be coming up later on. But wanted to give her a shout out when I did Verlander. So Lindsay Lee, this is your shout out for Verlander and the Houston Astros, and hope you all enjoyed it.